Hello and welcome to another video. Today we're talking EDC or everyday carry. The things that I carry on my person on a day-to-day basis when I'm delivering sessions as a woodland leader, bushcraft instructor, forest school leader, the whole shebang. It's the stuff that is tried and trusted that I tend to need on an everyday basis. So if you're interested in knowing what a woodland instructor carries in their pockets, keep watching and I'll see you in a moment. Now, I'm very much an everyday carry kind of person. I like having items physically on my person. What I really don't like is having to go and find my bag every time I need a piece of string or a tool or something to solve a problem or get something done. I like to have it right there, right when I need it. So let's get straight into it. Starting with my shirt pockets. I really like the zip pockets on these. It stops things from falling out much more than the top button pockets. First thing we've got a Sharpie. It's handy having something that will write anywhere and is permanent. It's really handy, not the least of it for first aid, but also just for labeling things that need labeling, making something highly visible, marking out a drawing or something on a piece of wood for carving. All of that really handy to use. I always have something to write with on me. Next thing is tinder. So in this case, a whole lot of Himalayan birch bark, which I gathered on the way to the woods here. So anything that I've got drying off or that I want to keep dry tends to go in the shirt pockets. We do have an exception to those, you'll see later in my tinder bag. But generally, to dry things out, I keep it in a shirt pocket there. That way it's less likely to get wet. If I'm brushing through tall grass or brambles, just keeps it nice and safe. Then the other pockets have a lighter. So just a standard clipper lighter. Now this is part of my 2 ways to light a fire. This is if I absolutely need a fire and needs to get done. It's this combined with the birch bark means you'll probably get a fire going. It's also nice to have something to hand to singe the end, to melt the ends of paracord that you're cutting. There's a lot of uses for a lighter, so I do always carry one on me. Then a plaster, or if you're over the pond, band-aid case. So 90% of first aid that I do is small cuts, and having a couple of finger plasters in a little container is amazing. I mean, it's most likely me that's going to get injured in any particular session or any activity, so I always keep some on my person as well as in the first aid kit. It just saves time. If I'm bleeding all over the place, I'd rather just get a plaster on it and be able to carry on working. So I always keep a couple of plasters in a hard case, just keeps them dry, keeps them from being damaged, and then right there when I need them. Moving on to the pockets, start right hand side. Now this isn't a very bushcrafty item, but it's one that is always in my pocket. It's the Sacred Mini Wallet. It's a handy little card wallet. And the really bushcraft instructor thing about that is inevitably when you're traveling en route to a session or activity, you remember that one thing that you forgot to prepare for, one food item that you forgot to buy, and you make a stop at the shops on the way. And where are you going to keep your receipts for business expenses? You're going to need a wallet. It has a handy little holder in there, so I can hold a few receipts and a couple of notes, and it's all there along with my business card. So everything fits in there, and I can make sure that I've got all the documentation needed for taxes at the end of the year. Then next to that, my keys. So on there I have a small flashlight. During the winter months I'll trade this out and I'll have a larger flashlight that just lives in my pocket, but during the summer just a small torch. I'll usually have a head torch in my bag if I'm going to be out overnight, but in the summer you don't really need to have it. And then I've got a whole lot of keys to various containers and gates and everything else. You end up with quite a heavy keychain if you use a number of different sites. That just gets clipped onto my belt so I don't lose it. And then the last thing in that particular pocket is my Strike fire steel attached with a carabiner and lanyard to my belt, with enough room so that I don't actually have to unclip it to use it. I've lost countless numbers of fire steels because you strike, you get something going, and then your immediate instinct is to nurture that small flame and you drop the fire steel next to you, and then by the time you stand up and start looking for it, it's really disappeared under the leaf litter and you're probably never going to see it again. So heartily recommend getting it clipped on. The Strike fire steels are fantastic. I've only been playing around with it for about 3 odd months now, but fantastic strike, really good heat. I do recommend them quite highly. That's it. That just gets clipped onto one of my belt loops here and then into the pocket. Going across to the other waist pocket, another essential item, my Motorola phone. This is beyond the obvious emergency use for contacting emergency services. It can bring up all of the emergency contact information. Even though I do usually have a hard copy for me on site, I can bring up all of the information for all of the people that I have on my sessions. And also on the lock screen of this, there is my personal emergency contact information. So if I get injured during the course of activity or so on, it's an ICE in case of emergency app, and it'll tell people exactly who they need to call and so on. Additionally, this is what I use to capture photographs during the session because it's quick and easy. It's in my pocket, out, take it, and then you can see those images on social media for marketing purposes or just for record of certain flowers and mushrooms that I've seen. I also have the Seek app on here, so it gives me a starting point for identifying plants that I come across. So an extremely handy tool, and one that, even though I advocate for low technology and being very careful about that technology is you using technology and technology is not using you, as a outdoor leader, if you're looking to be responsible and professional, you need some way of getting help to you. And that's it for waist pockets. Going down, right hand pocket. First thing out is 550 cord, Paracord. I always tend to carry a couple of odd lengths in my pocket because, again, it's just something that you can create a quick fix with, whether it's hanging up a rucksack on a tree, tying down a particular point on the top to aid in water runoff, putting together a tripod. It's handy having it on your person rather than having to dig through a rucksack. When I wear a jacket, this stuff will tend to end up in the jacket pockets because they tend to be a bit bigger, but usually carry a small length of something at least in my pocket just in case. This one is 550 cord, which is a bit more robust than your regular paracord, a little bit stronger for the same weight. Then next thing, another writing implement. This time it's a pen, so for that form filling or ticking boxes on a check sheet, for writing out information onto business cards, it's always handy having a finer pen with you. I tend to destroy pens that are in my pocket, so I thought with this one it would be a really good solution because it is solid brass with a nice bolt action to it. It's a great little pen, and so far I have managed to half destroy it. I've lost the cap off the top there, but that's what happens. It's still perfectly usable, and so far I haven't broken the action. It's a really nice fidget toy. Can flick backwards and forwards, and it's probably irritated the stuffy out of you, so I will stop clicking that. So, pen, very handy to have. Then, this is not something that usually ends up in my pocket, but probably should do. It's just a little bit of wire. So I was doing an activity that quite a bit of wire use, so I still have that in my pocket left over. It's just some gardening wire. Very handy to have. If I was doing snares and stuff, maybe I'd keep a bit more, but yeah, that's what it is. Continuing onwards. Now this is a relatively new addition, but one that is absolutely fantastic and I should have got years earlier. Now I always used to carry a Victorinox pocket knife with me, and they're good little knives. They do the job. They have a few tools on them, they're handy, but they are a pain to use quickly. So when you're looking to get something out of your pocket and just cut a piece of cord, you have to get two hands on it, you have to open it up, and you have to then cut the string, and it's just a lot of faff, and you're also lacking good tools. This is the Leatherman Wingman Multitool. Now what I really like about this is that the knife on the side is one-handed opening. Now you can modify it so it doesn't lock in place, but my personal, now this is not in any way legal advice, and this is, you probably shouldn't listen to me on this point, my personal opinion is that I'd rather have a locking blade and have the safety to myself involved in that than have a slip joint knife where it can close on my hand really easily. But as I said, that's me personally. So it has a knife, it has scissors that I don't use very often because a knife will do most tasks just out in the woods, and then the big game changer is a pair of pliers. That's just fantastic for so many tasks, from removing fish hooks from your skin to levering out nails to holding bolts in place where you tighten them. It's just incredibly useful, and it's a bit of versatility above and beyond what a standard pocket knife has. and incredibly handy. Then we've also got some screwdriver bits. We've got a file, bottle opener, package opener. Not stuff that I really use very often. I do use the screwdriver a fair bit because there's always something that needs tightening, but mostly knife and pliers. As I said, knife is really handy to have right there. Quick and easy use. Going deeper. This is a bit of a luxury item, but it's the pocket bellows. So it's for directing your breath close to the bottom of the fire, so you can be very precise about which part of the fire you blow into flame. It helps keep things going. It's great for kelly kettles. It just means that I don't have to get my head right next to the fire. I can sit back a bit and be a bit lazy. As I said, not an essential item, a luxury, but a very nice one to have, and it's lightweight, compact. Yeah, I like to have it. And I think that's everything out of that pocket, apart from some odds and ends of string right at the bottom. I mean, string, acorns, pine cones, all sorts, they just end up pockets. So on the side I have a pouch, which is my tinder pouch. This is where I keep the stuff that I've been drying out for a while and I want easy access to. So it's usually a mixture of seed heads and birch bark. In an emergency, I could just drop this, flick a lighter on the bottom. This would probably go up like nothing, but it's handy to have. And the reason why I use this bag is, first of all, tinder in there can dry out. So rather than a plastic bag where the moisture is trapped inside, there's room, there's ability for the water, for the moisture in there to evaporate out of the fibers. And the reason why I don't put it directly in my pockets is that inevitably when it comes to washing the trousers, you end up with a mess and you have to vacuum out the inside of your pockets before it goes in the washing machine. Otherwise, you end up with seed head everywhere. So this just keeps everything contained and sits in my pocket. So I'll switch between having that in a trouser pocket, in a shirt pocket, or in a jacket pocket, depending on the situation, how much is in here and how wet it is. So at the moment it's living in that pocket. And last item in my pocket is a microfiber towel. This is probably the most used item in this kit, beyond beyond even the pocket knife or multi-tool. I'm not a big fan of waste, so I tend to think sustainably, which is why I use pocket handkerchiefs, and also why I don't like using paper towels, and hand dryers never quite work. So I always carry a little microfiber towel with me, whether I'm around town or in the house, wherever. It's just handy to be able to dry your hands no matter what. But this has a number of other functions other than that. So wiping park seats so that you can sit down if they're wet off the rain, picking up pots and pans from the fire, wiping sweat. It's just really handy to have something to dry off your hands, and it's really handy item to have. I thoroughly recommend that. So there you go, all of my basic EDC kit that I carry around on me. If I'm in a woodland for a longer period of time, or I'm doing tool work, I'll add a knife and a saw and a tinder pouch to that, and like a little drop pouch on the side. But in general, that's what just lives in my pockets. Whenever I change the shirt, I'll take all of those out. New shirt, I'll pop all of the things in. It generally stays pretty constant, and I've found it works for 90% of what I need, and I'm not running backwards and forwards to camp to get important stuff, which is a pain, especially if you're in the middle of an activity with people and you're looking to keep the flow of the session going. You're able to go, okay, let me just cut that knife out, clip, done, cinch the edges, the ends, and keep going. So that's my thoughts on EDC. What do you usually carry? What would you consider an essential item? I'd love to hear about it. Leave your comments down below. Thank you for watching, and make the most of every day.